This is part one of a two-part series exploring GT and prototype racing in the US and Europe. In part one, we set the stage with a historical look at this exciting era of motorsport and a peek at my 1/24th slot car collection of some of these machines. Part two brings the story to life with an action-packed 1/24th scale slot car race at Pelican Park, featuring replicas of these legendary machines in competition. From the late 1950s to the early 1970s, racing was transformed. Tubular frames gave way to lightweight monocoques, front engines to mid-engine layouts, and aerodynamics became a deciding factor. American V8s challenged Europe's small displacement cars, while advances in brakes, tires, and safety kept pace with rising speeds. Ferrari, Corvette, Cobra Daytona, Lola, Ford's GT40s, and Porsche defined the era, some designs becoming legends, others fading as rule changes reshaped the sport. This golden age of endurance racing inspired me to create slot car replicas that capture the spirit of these iconic machines. Let's start with Lola. The Mark VI was ahead of its time, a mid-engined monocoque design built to handle a small block V8. Without it, the Ford GT40 might never have existed, or at least not in the form we know today. Lola Mark III saw some success in endurance racing, driven by legends like John Surtees and Mark Donohue. Produced in small numbers, they were striking machines, though ultimately overshadowed by the GT40. Carroll Shelby's Cobra began with a strengthened AC chassis powered by a small block Ford V8. Despite its simple tube frame and leaf springs, it proved highly competitive. The aerodynamic Cobra Daytona Coupe, styled by Peter Brock, gave the Cobra the speed to challenge Europe's best. Only 6 were built, nearly winning the GT Manufacturers' Championship in 1964 and securing it in 1965. The big block Cobra featured a wider, stronger tubular chassis and modern suspension. Its greatest international success came with a Brands Hatch win in 1966, but it was soon overshadowed by the more advanced Ford GT40. Brock also designed the Type 65 coupe, intended as the Daytona's successor, built on the big block chassis. However, by then racing had shifted to mid-engined monocoque designs. Only one was built, but left unfinished until 1981. Like the big block Cobra, it lived in the shadow of the GT40 Mark II and Mark IV. Now let's turn to Ford, arguably the most influential marquee of this era. After Henry Ford's failed bid to buy Ferrari, the rivalry became personal. Ford set its sights on beating Ferrari at Le Mans. Lacking sports racing experience, Ford partnered with Eric Broadley of Lola. His Lola GT inspired the GT40's design. The first prototype debuted in 1964, but aerodynamic and reliability issues plagued the car. None finished a race. Ford then turned the project over to Carroll Shelby. With Ken Miles leading development, the GT40 scored its first victory at Daytona in 1965, though Le Mans' success remained elusive. In 1966, Ford introduced the 7-liter Mark II. The cars dominated, sweeping Daytona, Sebring, and delivering a legendary 1-2-3 finish at Le Mans, the first American win. The triumph was bittersweet. Miles was denied the Le Mans victory and later died testing the unstable J car. Shelby and Carcraft transformed it into the lighter, safer Mark IV. In 1967, Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt drove it to glory at Le Mans, the first all-American car, team, and drivers to stand atop the podium. The Mirage was essentially a lighter GT40 Mark I chassis with a small block engine, reskinned to meet new rules that allowed a smaller, more aerodynamic cockpit. It saw some success, but was quickly overshadowed by the big block GT40 Mark II. The F3L, developed by Ford Europe, emerged in 1968 when prototype engines were limited to 3 liters. Though promising in concept, the project suffered from poor funding and ultimately failed to deliver. The Corvette ruled American racing through the late 50s and early 60s, until the arrival of the Shelby Cobra. Chevrolet engineer Arkus-Duntov answered with the Corvette Grand Sport, a lightweight racing special originally planned for 125 cars. Built on a tubular frame with advanced suspension, it was far more sophisticated than the Cobra. Unfortunately, GM's corporate ban on racing ended the program after only 5 were completed, leaving the Grand Sport a legendary what-if in racing history.
Ferrari dominated European GT and prototype racing into the mid-1960s, powered by high-revving engines and proven chassis designs. Yet the company was slow to embrace the mid-engine revolution that was reshaping the sport. Mauro Forghieri, Ferrari's brilliant young engineer, championed the mid-engine layout, but many inside Maranello, Enzo included, resisted the change. With persistence from Forghieri and the influence of driver John Surtees, Ferrari finally approved the 250p. The result was instant. Victories at the 1963 24 Hours of Le Mans, 12 Hours of Sebring, 1,000 kilometers Nürburgring, and Canadian Grand Prix. The lineage continued with the 330p4, considered one of the most beautiful race cars ever built. Though it fell short at Le Mans, its design and presence left an indelible mark. Ferrari's next major effort was the 512, created for the new 5-liter rules of 1970. Despite moments of brilliance, it was ultimately overshadowed by Porsche's all-conquering 917.
Porsche entered international prototype racing with the 906, a lightweight, street-legal design that excelled in the 2-liter FIA class but could not compete with larger displacement rivals. The 908 followed in 1968 as Porsche's first 3-liter prototype intended to fight for overall victories. At Le Mans that year, the 908s were the fastest in qualifying, but mechanical issues left the win to Ford's GT40. Meanwhile, Porsche was developing the 917, built on the 908 chassis concept, but powered by a massive 5-liter flat 12. Though blisteringly fast, the early 917 was unstable at high speed. At Le Mans in 1969, John Wolfe was killed in a first-lap crash, underscoring the car's challenges. The design was soon revised with shorter bodywork, creating the 917K. This version transformed the 917 into a legend, dominating international prototype racing and securing back-to-back Le Mans victories in 1970 and 1971.
I've always been captivated by the golden era of GT and prototype racing. The cars were fast, beautiful, and full of character. To capture that spirit, I built a collection of slot cars as my personal tribute. The lineup includes icons like the Cobra Daytona, GT40 Mark I, GT40 Mark IV, Porsche 906, Corvette Grand Sport, Porsche 917, and Ferrari 512. Most of these are 1/24 scale plastic models mounted on sturdy H-bracket production chassis. Some, like the Cobra Daytona and GT40 Mark IV, were ambitious molding and resin casting projects, while others began life as plastic model kits that I converted into race-ready slot cars.